So the Satanists, they have this phrase. They say, never let a tragedy go to waste.
Waste a good crisis.
So what do I think that the Satanists will try to do to take advantage of, to leverage this coronavirus outbreak? Well, in the Philippines, there was a woman, a politician, came out and said, well, we didn't track the people fast enough. We should have seen who was infected, and we should have checked to see who they've been in contact with. So this is one thing. They will try to use this tragedy to increase human tracking. They'll use it to justify more open forms of tracking. There's a lot of tracking going on today, but they will try to introduce somewhat of a more blatant form of human tracking. In 2015, Bill Gates came out and gave a talk saying that the world was not prepared for a viral outbreak. And he even showed a coronavirus cell. And Bill Gates said that the world needs some kind of a response force, a medical response force. And this is interesting because I have a lot of dreams that I can look back at and say, wow, this seems to fit in with dreams that I've had in the past about biological outbreaks. That there were these people who, in America, who were not Americans, who were telling Americans what to do, and they had a lot of authority and a lot of control. So in this talk, Bill references who? The World Health Organization. He says, they just monitor. That's all they do. They don't respond. So what Bill wants is some kind of a biological fast response team. In other words, people from a foreign nation that would come into a country like the United States and occupy it unresisted by an army, because they're not, at least at first, carrying firearms. They're not carrying weapons, but they would have a level of control, a level of authority in this country in order to reduce a biological outbreak, real imagined bioterrorism introduced by the Satanists, or however it would occur. The Satanists would then be applying to get some kind of a legal law, some kind of a series of laws, a legal act put into place that would give them authority, that would give them a right to come in and bring in their own people in order to take control, some measure of
Today, the greatest risk of global catastrophe doesn't look like this. Instead, it looks like this. If anything kills over 10 million people in the next few decades, it's most likely to be a highly infectious virus rather than a war. Not missiles, but microbes. But we've actually invested very little in a system to stop an epidemic. We're not ready for the next epidemic. Let's look at Ebola. I'm sure all of you read about it in the newspaper. Lots of tough challenges. I followed it carefully through the case analysis tools we use to track polio eradication. The problem wasn't that there was a system that didn't work well enough. The problem was that we didn't have a system at all. We didn't have a group of epidemiologists ready to go who would have gone, seen what the disease was, see how far it had spread. The case reports came in on paper. It was very delayed before they were put online, and they were extremely inaccurate. But even so, we were far slower than we should have been getting the thousands of workers into these countries. And a large epidemic would require us to have hundreds of thousands of workers. So there was a lot that was missing, and these things are really a global failure. Now in the movies, it's quite different. There's a group of handsome epidemiologists ready to go. They move in, they save the day, but that's just pure Hollywood. The failure to prepare could allow the next epidemic to be dramatically more devastating than Ebola. About 10,000 people died. There's 3 reasons why it didn't spread more. The first is there was a lot of heroic work by the health workers. They found the people and they prevented more infections. The second is the nature of the virus. Ebola does not spread through the air. And by the time you're contagious, most people are so sick that they're bedridden. Third, it didn't get into many urban areas, and that was just luck. If it had gotten into a lot more urban areas, the case numbers would have been much larger. You can have a virus where people feel well enough while they're infectious that they get on a plane or they go to a market. The source of the virus could be a natural epidemic like Ebola, or it could be bioterrorism. And so there are things that would literally make things 1,000 times worse. In fact, let's look at a model of a virus spread through the air like the Spanish flu back in 1918. So here's what would happen. It would spread throughout the world very, very quickly. And you can see there's over 30 million people die from that epidemic. So this is a serious problem. We should be concerned. But in fact, we can build a really good response system. We have the benefits of all the science and technology that we talk about here. We've got cell phones to get information from the public and get information out to them. We have satellite maps where we can see where people are and where they're moving. We have advances in biology that should dramatically change the turnaround time to look at a pathogen and be able to make drugs and vaccines that fit for that pathogen. So we can have tools, but those tools need to be put into an overall global health system, and we need preparedness. The best lessons, I think, on how to get prepared are, again, what we do for war. For soldiers, we have full-time waiting to go. We have reserves that can scale us up to large numbers. NATO has a mobile unit that can deploy very rapidly. NATO does a lot of war games to check, are people well trained? Do they understand about fuel and logistics and the same radio frequencies? So they are absolutely ready to go. We need a medical reserve corps. Lots of people who've got the training and background who are ready to go with the expertise. And then we need to pair those medical people with the military, taking advantage of the military's ability to move fast, do logistics, and secure areas. We need to do simulations, germ games, not war games, so that we see where the holes are. The last time a germ game was done in the United States was back in 2001, and it didn't go so well. So far, the score is germs 1, people 0. Finally, we need lots of advanced R&D in areas of vaccines and diagnostics. There are some big breakthroughs, like adeno-associated virus, that could work very, very quickly. Now, I don't have an exact budget for what this would cost, but I'm quite sure it's very modest compared to the potential harm. The World Bank estimates that if we have a worldwide flu epidemic, global wealth will go down by over $3 trillion, and we'd have millions and millions of deaths. These investments offer significant benefits beyond just being ready for the epidemic. The primary health care, the R&D, those things would reduce global health equity and make the world more just as well as more safe.
38-year-old female Chinese patient under investigation, or PUI, is positive for the novel coronavirus 2019-nCoV. The confirmed case arrived in the Philippines from Wuhan, China, via Hong Kong last January 21, 2020. The patient sought consult and was admitted in one of the country's government hospitals last January 25 after experiencing mild cough. She is currently asymptomatic. So let me repeat. She is currently asymptomatic, which means she has no fever and no other signs and symptoms suggesting illness at this point. I assure that the public that the DOH is on top of this evolving situation. We were able to detect the first confirmed case because of our strong surveillance system, close coordination with the World Health Organization and other national agencies, and the utilization of DOH's decision tool. DOH is also in close coordination with the Interagency Task Force on Emerging Infectious Diseases, or EID.
That's where mothers can give birth safely, kids can get all their vaccines.